All right. Welcome tonight. We have a packed schedule tonight, and I am flying solo. I am flying solo because Iveta is at a client appreciation event tonight, and but she didn't forget about you. She's asked me to share um, a message. So let's see if this works.
Hi guys, just wanted to say a quick hello. I am not at the masterclass tonight as I am in the client event with some of our clients, appreciating them during this holiday season. Meanwhile, take care of yourself, have a wonderful class, learn lots, ask us questions, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
So she wanted to make sure that I played that to show that she is here in spirit, if not in body, and encourage you to keep on asking questions. So since I'm flying solo, I will be going back and forth from sharing the screen and checking to see if anybody else is joining us. Of course, this session is recorded. Before I get into the meat of today's session, I encourage you to put any questions in the chat from previous sessions. And hopefully, we are expecting Sergey to join us today. He is the realtor that I spoke to all you about that actually moved from Toronto 2 years ago with his whole family to Malaga, Spain, and started up a brand new life there. They had to get visas. They're not like European citizens or anything like that. So they had to get visas. So they went through the whole non-lucrative visa application process. He has information on that, information on about how to look for properties. He's got lots of contacts in terms of accountants and lawyers and all that stuff over in Spain. Now, in checking with him last week, he said he's going to be here. In checking with him today, he is en route from London back to Malaga, although he said he should be able to join us. So the moment he's joining us, and I'm going to introduce him and open the floor if there's any questions, or just have him talk a little bit about the process of finding a home and anything that he thinks might be relevant in terms of Canadian looking to settle in Spain, whether that's a rental, an Airbnb, or buying something outright. Um, so other than that, I'm going to start going into today. We wanted to talk about a few things. Um, the first one, and by the way, this is the second to last one for this year. Next week will be the last one for this year, and then we're going to take a break until January the 9th. So everybody can take a breather, go buy their holiday presents, whatever you're celebrating, or not, and we can start again in the new year. But today we'll be talking about retirement income sources and planning for them, estimating retirement expenses, and getting someone else is joining us, strategies for having a sustainable retirement abroad and income, and of course, finding a place to live in your new country. Now, if you all recall, we've been working with Mark and Mary Expat. And one of the things that I have in my experience in working with clients who are thinking about living, working, retiring abroad, whatever that is that it is a state of flux. Things change regularly and often. Case in point, a real example, one couple client that I had worked with had given us an initial date of we're going to move in 8 years, lots of time to plan. They had a company, they had three properties, they had lots of stuff they had to figure out before doing it. And then a year later, they said, well, we've changed our mind. We want to move in 3 years instead. So we quickly adjusted the plan to see if it still worked out, maybe sell a different property or so. And then, really funny enough, last year they said, put it on hold. Uh, we are now, for personal reasons I won't get into, they decided they're going to put it on hold until another couple of years down the road. But what they do have is that they know that they can do it and they just have to pull the trigger when they're ready. So because of that, we thought we'd update Mark and Mary Expat to show a little bit of new planning on their part before we get into things like how to figure out what it might cost for you to live in another country and how we build that into the plan, as well as different websites to find out where those numbers you can get for cash flow planning. So before I share the screen, I'm going to say that Mark and Mary Expat contacted us and They said, well, retirement is going to stay in 2030. We said we're going to retire in 2030. We're not changing it. However, one thing we'd like to do is we'd like to sell our home in 2028 instead of 2030. And the reason for that is we looked at our mortgage and our mortgage matures in April 2028. We'd rather not get another mortgage for 5 years or for a shorter term period. We have the investment property, our rental condo. So what they're thinking to do is sell the home in the same year that their mortgage matures, so they don't have to renew, pay off their mortgage that'll be left over, which will be 140,000, move into the rental unit. So that takes some planning as well because they need to let their occupants know that they need to move out and coordinate that they have enough time to use about $10,000 to renovate the condo. You maybe get new appliances and maybe have 1 or 2 months to make sure that it's all ready for them to move in and also vacate their old house and downsize and stuff like that. The reason for that is not just the mortgage, but their daughter Tina is going to be starting university in 2026, which will take them to 2030. Otherwise, they may have left earlier, but they want to be here at least until their daughter finishes university. And they figure that the daughter's going to live with them, while Zach, who's starting university in 2025, will be in residence for those 4 years. So, what do we do? Like, that's great. We had planned, we started working on the plan, but now we've got new things to look at. So let me queue it all up here for us, and I'll bring it up. And these are things that happen regularly and often. I had a discussion today with someone who's looking to move back to Romania. And even in that discussion, we talked about that first year being kind of like a transition year to try to figure out what are going to be the cash flow expectations, whether they're going to stay there permanently or keep a footprint in Canada and move back and forth depending on the cash flow and so on. And that's a discussion that is really important. We talked to in the very first session, financial, logistics, and emotional. And I've got it all queued up here. So I'm going to, all right. So what we've got here now is a little bit of an adjust. I started working some of the numbers already in here, but what we need to do now is we go into the software and we say, the lifestyle asset, the principal residence. We're going to have the asset sale happening on March the 31st or thereabouts in 2028 because we've been identified that the mortgage matures on April. So even if they have it for another month or so, that's fine, but at least it's not for another 2 years. And once that is sold, whatever mortgage is left, which our software calculated to be about 140,000, that will pay off the mortgage first, and then the rest will go into a joint non-registered account as cash. From there, the decision is what to do with it. So we haven't really touched on yet, how much of that, if any, would be used to buy a property in Spain. But of course, from that, we can also put in a requirement to purchase, may do a major expense goal in a certain time period in Spain. And that could happen before, even now when they own the house, because they have a line of credit. So they can use the line of credit to purchase that outright, or we can wait until they've sold it. Of course, the longer they wait, prices might go up. So if the time frame is still relatively short, 2030 is not close by, but it is not far either. So it starts to make sense to when you're traveling to Spain to start talking with realtors, maybe checking out different neighborhoods, like Iveta did when she was in Calpe this summer, just to see what the prices are and build that in because it's nice to just put an idea here of 200,000 euros or 300,000 euros, but what does that actually buy? And do you really want to buy? Maybe you just want to rent. So once that's done, we've got the lifestyle asset ready to sell. Then the next thing that we can look at is making sure that the rental property is not going to continue paying us income until retirement or death as we had before. So we'd go in here and we put the rental income to actually stop. And in discussion with Mark and Mary Expat, we say let's just stop it on December the 1st, 2027, because That'll be, giving us time to use January and February to renovate the place. I mean, they can make this a different date based on how well they know their tenant. Um, you know, is it a good time to say December 1st before Christmas? Maybe yes, maybe no, but that's something that we at least can put it in here so that they can plan accordingly in advance instead of at the last minute just, saying, sorry, you have to move because we're moving in. That can actually lead to a lot of uh, stress and heartache if that doesn't work out properly. Rental expenses also need to end. Um, Actually, the condo fees should probably stay there. The condo fee should not end until retirement. So let's put that back. One of the things that Mark and Mary Expat were actually thinking is because, if they're leaving their kids behind, if they're not coming, one option might be to leave the condominium to Tina and Zach as a place as they're starting out, and then eventually when they're ready to go on their own, they can sell it at that point. So these are a lot of the planning issues that happen. Asset sale, we don't have a sale yet. We just have it last to die for now because we're not anywhere near making that decision. But we build that in here into the software. And then really the next part of this whole strategy is, well, that's great. We have that there. What does it look like now? And it looks a lot better than before when it was 91% just staying in Canada. But that's not the whole story because we have to really work on the expenses. And I'm just going to stop. All right. So, for example, the expenses, you'll notice that everything we have here, the property taxes, they go until retirement. So now we need to go in and change every single one of these from retirement, especially the ones for the home. Property taxes are going to end in March 2028. That won't be an expense anymore. So one by one, we go and we check the date, 2028, March, assuming 31st, and we end it like that. So home insurance, utilities, groceries will continue on, of course. That doesn't have to change until retirement. Car, fuel, that'll stay the same, cell phones, internet, but anything to do with the home, that'll go out. So everything else stays the same. We can pretty well make this change. All right. And then after that, we still haven't figured out what they're going to start spending in Spain. We still have that big lump sum number of 10,000 per month. Actually, it was 8,000 before, if any of you remember. And in discussions with Mark and Mary, we just decided we'd bump it up to 10,000 to stress test it a little bit more. Perhaps more trips back and forth as well to see the kids, or if the kids can't afford to fly to Spain, then paying their cost to come to Spain as well. So I want to make sure every single base is covered and nothing is left to chance because we all know that anything else can throw a wrench into the best laid plans. Once that's all done, we go back and we look again, and it's still pretty good. It's still not bad, 110%. So far, it looks like we're good. Um, Now, here's where we start doing a little bit more planning, where if they do want to buy something, we'll add it into purchasing for a future, what do you call it, major expense goal. And once they figured that out, then that's when we'll put it in there. But how do we figure that out? And if any of you have used different things like Idealista or Numbeo. Those are some tools that you can use from this side of the pond if you haven't had experience of actually going there and looking around to start deciding, at least in general terms, what it might cost. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen here and bring up that part of it, and then check also to see if Sergey is on the line. Any questions so far? Eleanor says yes. That was at 7:08. So I guess we're good. Eleanor, any other questions from that? Okay, let's move this up here. Okay. Has anybody heard of Numbeo? Put in the chat, just say yes or no. Eleanor's put yes and a no, because I've confused her. All right. I'm going to bring up Kirsten has heard of Numbeo. Perfect. Diane has heard of Numbeo. What are your experiences with Numbeo? Any experiences, good, bad? I've used it personally. It's been pretty accurate from where I've been in the world. However, of course, it's still going to be like a kind of temperature gauge. I would say whatever you see out there, add a little bit more, like another miscellaneous expense on it. But for those of you who have not seen it, this is what it looks like. Okay, so Numbeo,
No.
uh, I'm going to go back just to,
Oh, wait.
hello? Did say someone say something? All right. So under Numbeo, there's a lot of different things. When you first go in, it's asking you to register with an email. Don't worry about it. Just click it off. It still works. But there's cost of living comparison, cost of living calculator. Be quite honest, I don't know what all of these are. I basically go to cost of living comparison because that helps me to look from where I'm currently living to where I'm planning to go. And I've used this with cities in Romania, in Spain, in Italy, even before trips, just to see what I should be spending for a nice restaurant meal out, and so on and so forth. So when you go here, you can pick your current city. I'm currently living in Toronto, or the GTA at least, and we can pick whatever city you guys want. Anybody want to pick a city for me? We'll use Calp since that's where Yvette was looking to go.
Yeah.
And this is what comes up. Sign up for free. I just click this and it still works. And you'll see here side by side. Now, where do these numbers come from? These are numbers input by actual people that are there or here. Like in Toronto, for example, I can confirm, is a McMeal at McDonald's this much? And I can edit that if I wanted to make it more accurate. So it's basically populated by people around the world. It gives you good insight, for example, whether it's going to be higher or lower expense. And on this last column, it tells you in percentages whether it's cheaper in less expensive in Calpe than in Toronto. For example, a meal at an inexpensive restaurant is 35% less in Calpe than it is in Toronto. A meal for two, mid-range restaurant with three courses. Yeah, that sounds about right. $120 in Toronto, and it's $70 Canadian equivalent in Calpe. And these are for restaurants, you can scroll down. Got different things, cappuccinos, Coke, water, markets like eggs, cheeses. And I like this here because it tells you, like in red, it's more expensive. Bananas are more expensive. Beef is slightly more expensive. But a lot of the other things are less expensive in general. Um, what do we got here? Taxis are a bit more expensive. Gasoline is a lot more expensive in Spain there, in Calpe, in that region. So you'll see it's 157 euro or 231 Canadian. But of course, I don't know how many of us plan to really drive a lot there or not. I certainly don't, but who knows? Uh, if you wanted to buy a car, no, I know that electricity is slightly more expensive. There it is. But mobile phone, look at that, minus 73% less expensive. And so these are the types of websites that you can then use to start planning. If you want to have a more kind of accurate number, like again, that first year, you're going to start seeing what you're spending. You're probably going to be spending more because it's like a honeymoon period, right? You're out, you're going out to restaurants, you're walking. I know when I'm in Europe with my wife and we're walking, I don't know how many gelatos we buy. And I tell you, it's like you think it's cheap, €3, €4, but that's €3 or €4, right? And I know that for sure I wouldn't be buying a Ben and Jerry's every single night in Canada if I was going out for a walk. That's for sure. So, you make decisions, but basically the prime decisions are roof over the head. Where are you going to sleep? Is it going to be a home or are you going to rent? So once you get those under the um, taken care of, then we can look at see what else is the miscellaneous things like, clothes, uh, Nike, like they have Nike shoes. Here's the price for apartments. How much does it cost for an apartment, one bedroom or three bedroom in the area of Calpe? So in Toronto, looks like it's $4,000 in the city center. That sounds pretty high. I mean, I've heard of 3,500, but I guess it depends where you go. I can see it going up to that amount, but in Calpe, it's 1,921. So you can budget because when you actually move there, you might not have a house right away. One of the things is talking with Sergey and other realtors makes sense to kind of live in the area for a little bit, instead of diving right in. I've seen so many YouTube videos of people who've gone there, who've gone anywhere overseas and just fell in love with the city while they were on vacation, decided to buy a place, and then without really realizing they bought a place and it was like in the wrong part of town or something that they just didn't jive with them. And then they were like, why didn't we just rent for a bit? So uh, putting that in the budget of, 2,000 Canadian dollars per month for maybe 3 to 6 months, and then having a down payment for a home would also make sense. All right. And then, I mean, for most of us looking to retire, we're not going to be really worried about this part, but average net monthly salaries in Toronto versus Calpe. Looks good. Let's see if there's anything in chat. Malaga. Oh, I missed that one. Let's go to Malaga. But Don wants to see Malaga. All right, let's do Malaga really quickly. Feel free to shout it out because I don't see the chat since I'm by myself. You don't have to take yourself off camera, but let's go back here. Malaga. So hey, McDonald's is still cheaper. There you go. Actually, I did have a McDonald's in Malaga, right on the center, and they serve beer, which is pretty awesome. You can actually get beer at McDonald's in Malaga. So there you go. Speaking of beer, domestic beer is a lot cheaper. Imported beer, cappuccinos. Anything in particular that you wanted to see?
Um, more think
Okay.
I'm thinking like rental.
Okay, rentals down here. Let's see here. So rentals, one bedroom in the city center, 1,570, three bedrooms, 2,671. So when we rented in Malaga in 2019, I want to say, we had a very nice apartment down in the middle of the city center. No elevator. You had to walk up two flights of stairs, and it was 900 euros per month. That's what we paid in 2019, 2020. So this looks pretty much in line, I guess. It was a one bedroom as well for us, but it had a balcony and a terrace outside. And here's the thing you don't know about. When we lived there, the garbage, because you're in the city center, the garbage trucks came out at 2 o'clock in the morning and they didn't care if anybody was sleeping. It was just, that's when they picked up all the garbage. So you get used to that after a while. You actually kind of ignore them. But that's one of the things makes sense to kind of live where you want to live for a while as a rental just to see if it works out. All right, great. So the next thing you want to look at then is using this information, we build, I guess, how much we want to put aside to spend in the destination. But what if we want to buy something? Has anybody used any sites like realtor sites? Have you come across any that you want to put in the chat? And I'll share the one that I've used. When we were looking for a rental, we used it. Actually, we found the rental through it. And we actually, once we found it, then of course we talk with the realtors to help us look at different places. Anybody has used any specific sites you want to share? Idealista, yes. Kirsten is the specialist here. I think Kirsten can run this. I've used Idealista, Carol, yes. Think Spain, all three of them are very good. So I'm going to share Idealista and show you how that works. It's pretty cool. Okay. So Idealista, that's how it's spelled, Idealista. Gonna just go back to the beginning. I was looking at Malaga, but I will keep it to Malaga. Now Malaga is getting more expensive, just so you know. But you can I compared it with Calpe as well. You can either look for buying or renting. So let's look at renting first, and then we'll go to buying. You can either draw your area, so we can try that. Let's do that. I haven't done this for a while. Okay, let's scroll in and let's draw your area. Okay, there we go. 3,777 properties. Wow, that's pretty expensive, parking included. So then we can just go here and put like either whether it's a long-term residential or short-term, whether it's a minimum size, maximum size. Let's pick 2 bedrooms, I guess, in case any family members come and visit us. I don't want three, it's going to be too expensive, or 4 bedrooms. And now we can just either click to see it on the map, which I like to do. And all these little dots are actual rental units. And you can click on it. So we actually stayed, we lived, we lived, we rented here in this area right here, Soho. Really nice. And it's gotten really expensive since we were there. But you can click on every one of these and see a little bit about it. They're pretty accurate, to tell you the truth, because we actually went and visited a lot of these from Idealista. Like we did the research, sort of like in Canada, the MLS listings. And then we actually spoke with a realtor and showed her what we wanted to see, and she arranged for the tours. But from this, at least you get to see how big it is. Everything there's in square meters. This is pretty large, 100 square meters. It's on the first floor exterior with a lift. You get to learn a bunch of things by talking to realtors. Like, for example, first floor was not really our cup of tea on the street. You get the bars or the grates, so it's a little bit less, not that it's not safe, but you want to have security in mind as well. So look around and see what you can find in terms of where you want to live, whether it's by the water or further up the hill. For example, up here could be less expensive, and it is 1,050 per month. And then you can use, for example, Google GPS to see how long is it to walk from here. My wife and I are walkers, so if we were to actually move up here somewhere, like how long would it take to walk from here down to the beach or down to the center or things like that. All right, so let's go to the buying. Same idea. Wow, there's a lot of stuff here. Now, this is not going to show like this is going to just show what's listed, but realtors like Sergey, I'm not sure if he's on, if you can let me know if he's on. They have access to new builds that are not ready yet. They're like going to be built in a year or so. You put a down payment and you can be on a golf course. So they might not be in the center of town like this, but they'll be on the outskirts. But even so, look at all the stuff that's available. Just click on it here. This is pretty expensive, 440,000 euros. So let's see if we can make the max price. Wants to shout out a max price, anybody? I'll pick 200. All right, so here's one for 184,990. And it looks like it's a duplex. So this is an apartment. What you're going to find in the city is going to be a lot different than in the countryside too, right? All right, so let's see, we've established we like that one. Or we've looked around and we say, well, it looks like the average of what we like, the highest is about 300, the lowest is about 180. Let's take something in the middle, 250,000 or something like that. So once we've got that, then we're going to go back. Spanish love shacks. Yeah, and also, I don't know if you know, like some of those pictures are pretty good. They were nice and tidied up. but many pictures on realtor websites in Spain. I don't understand why they don't know they can take the laundry and put it in the closet at least if they don't want to show it on the bed. But it's always like that, or at least it was in the past. So what happens now is we've got the price of the home, we've got the cash flow. We go back to our um, plan, and we can say, well, you know what? Let's see what happens. Can we buy a residence? Um, let's say we're going to retire in 2030. Maybe we'd like to have it the year before when we're traveling there, just so that we can be sure that we've got it. And let's pick, June 30th, and it's going to cost us, well, we said 250,000 euros. So what's that in Canadian dollars? 368,000. All right. So what that's going to do is take the money from the bank accounts or the non-registered account. Actually, double check that. Purchase expenses. I'm not sure what the costs are, but let's put 3%. Okay. And now, hopefully, I haven't tested this before. Well, it's on the cusp here. It's doable, that's for sure. But this plan still needs a little bit of work because I don't think anybody of us wants to be just at 100% if something should go wrong. If there's like a repair that needs to be done. Of course, we're all adults, like I said, so expenses can vary month by month. And some months maybe you're going to spend less, some months you're going to spend more, but at least you know that this can work. So really the next part is checking out some audit reports to make sure where the money's coming from. Um, so for example, the multi-year cash flow will show you exactly where you're going to get the money from whether your TFSA, the salaries ending in 2030, RRSPs, rental property. The rental property stops here in 2028 because we're not renting it out anymore. And then here in 2029, we've got only 379,000 in the non-registered because part of that's gone to purchase the property in Spain at the same time. But we can play around with these numbers. Any questions? Okay. So, how do you make sure you protect yourself that, you're leaving? Like, what are some options? And I've come across this in discussions with other people who have decided to do this. Do we leave everything in Canada? Do we bite the bullet and convert everything to euros and move it to Europe? What's the best course of action? Well, my recommendation would be to, if it's going to be that transition year, um, I would say test the waters. Like find a place you can park your assets here, the investments that are going to give you money. And then when you're there, investigate the different banks, Banco Santander or whatever, Caxa Bank. Walk in, see if they speak English. If they're, it's easy to do business with them. One couple that I spoke with, for example, just wanted to leave everything here, but have a monthly income from us sent monthly to their bank account in Canada. And then when it accumulated to a certain amount, what they would do is they would use one of the currency conversion apps. And the one that they used, I'm going to show you that one as well as a few others, was called Wise. And I'm sure Kirsten has probably heard of Wise as well. And if anybody else has as well, you can let me know. But Wise is like an online currency exchange where from your phone, you move money from your bank account, whether it's RBC, CIBC, or whatever, into the Wise. And Wise will then, you can, from Wise, you move it into the bank in Spain where you have your bank account. And the currency conversion is going to be very close, if not almost identical, to what you can get on Google. If you were to Google, you know, how much euros can 100,000 Canadian buy, and Google gives you that number is without any like major fees or anything like that. So that's not the number that a bank will give you, not the number that one of the big Canadian banks will convert for you, or even in Spain. So the old way of doing things, and by the way, again, I'm giving you the information. I'm not telling you to run ahead and do this. Do your own due diligence. I have not used it myself yet, but my clients have used Wise very effectively. They tested it out first at the beginning by moving over just $100 to see how it worked. And now they're comfortable moving $60,000 at a time. So basically, once a year, they'll get some money, they'll convert it and take it over to Spain. But if you were to do it the traditional way by walking into a bank or even a currency conversion house, they're going to add a fee on top of that, whatever that fee is. It's going to take, I mean, for $1,000, really, who cares? But when you're talking about 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, $50,000, that can be quite a lot of money going to fees. It's just getting that comfort level that you trust that it's actually working. And it does work for a lot of people that they've gotten used to it. In fact, Wise has been around for quite a while in Europe. It's been used by a lot of Europeans before Canadians got knowledgeable of it. And recently, not that I have cable, but I've started to see commercials even here on our version of Disney or Netflix, where they play the commercials. They've shown the Wise commercials now as well here, so it's getting pretty popular. Has anybody heard of any other ones other than Wise before I show them up here? Okay, so let me show you what else there is. Of course, you could always do it with your bank card and going to the local, bank that has the logos on your bank card, but that'll be for smaller amounts. Once you've gotten established there and you have a bank that you trust and you want to open an account there, ING is there, for example, then you can go there and open an account and have peace of mind that there's money there with you if you need to access it. So another one here is called Knightsbridge. Not one is better than the other, as far as I know. Again, do your own due diligence. But they're even showing you here, for example, how much you can save on just $10,000 compared to Canadian bank rates. So on $10,000 US converting, you're saving up to $300, based on what you would actually get from the banks. Another one here is XE. They're even giving you a gift card. They're telling you here, for example, you can even put in here, let's say if we want to move $60,000 Canadian to euros, is 40,696 euros. So again, the way that you would do this, technically what happens is the money gets deposited into XE accounts, they convert it, and then they send you the euros to your bank account in Europe. All right, that's how that works. So that's great. We have something in the chat here. What do you need to open a bank account in Spain and to transfer a large amount there? I'll tell you what I know. I haven't opened up my own bank account there, but my wife did, and she needed her NIE, her SIN number, basically, a residency that she was living in there. She had at least an address that she could call home, and she opened it at ING. And she even now has that bank account there, still has some euros in it because we've decided to keep it. But you need to have at least the NIE and the residency. Beyond that, I'm not really sure what else, but I can investigate that for you guys. If anybody on the chat knows, please share. Please go ahead and share and let us know if you've opened up a bank account there as well. Sure. And a lot of the banks, I mean, here's one, Santander Bank, for example. They're pretty good. They have English on their websites, but you may find that when you actually go into the branches, There is English, but sometimes not that much. And it's a hit or miss. We've experienced this in Malaga, for example, when we go to ING or Santander Bank. Sometimes we go in and it was very friendly, and people would speak English. If we started out into Spanish, but at the same time, culturally, you have to be, I guess, cognizant. One of the hurdles that we might all come across is, looking in the news, a lot of tourists there, right? Maybe that's part of the mentality, like, oh my goodness, another person here looking to open a bank account. They don't even speak Spanish. They may quite easily be able to speak English, but they might just refuse to because it's just more difficult for them. So keep that in mind. It is a very open country, especially in the south. Lots of tourists, but at the same time, when you're going to do business, it's one of the things, one of the hurdles that you might need to overcome, either by getting a translator with you. We were fortunate; we had family there that spoke Spanish, so they'd come in with us if we had any problems, and they could easily translate for us. But that could be another hurdle that you have to worry about. Santander is pretty good here because they have an actual English website. Like you just go in here and they explain everything in English. But when you actually go in to open the account, you're going to need to have your Google Translate with you potentially. Okay. Um, and again, you may not even need this bank account there. If you're not working, like for example, we had a bank account because her income was going into the bank account. But you can just as easily keep all your money here in RBC, CIBC, BMO, whatever, and then once in a while transfer it over to a bank account there when you need the money. Sounds good? It's a bit strange for me. I don't have Yvetta talking to me either, reminding me what to say. So it's I'm going back and forth between sharing and not sharing to see that you're all still there. All right. All right. So now imagine that we've figured it all out. You've sold the money, you sold the house, the money's in the non-registered account, you got the plan. What do we do? Well, there is a concept called cash wedge, if some of you have heard about it. We typically use that for retirement planning in Canada, but it's just as good concept for moving outside of Canada. What a cash wedge is this? Figure out how much you need to be comfortable for a whole year that you don't have to worry about your investments if you have to invest. If you're fortunate enough that you have enough big pile of money that you don't really have to invest aggressively, a good high interest savings account is going to do the trick. Great, good for you. But if you do have to invest because you need that money to last for a longer period of time, then it makes sense to say, markets go up and down all the time. We don't want to stress out. I don't want to be drinking a cappuccino and wondering what's happening because something rocked the markets. So let's just make sure if it's going to cost us 80,000 Canadian to live a year with everything we want, bells and whistles, whether we use it or not, let's just put that into cash right now. Just put that into cash, and then we can put everything else into some investment that can create a monthly income or at least can grow over time. So that is one of the recommendations we do. We say, what does it cost? Do your homework. We know it's not going to be perfect. That's why we'll build in some miscellaneous and we'll stress test it. We'll add some inflation into the mix. And we're actually hoping that with all the pie in the sky dreams that we all have, buying a car, having a house on the coast, whatever it is, that even then, if that's at 100%, we know we have enough room, a buffer room that we can pull back if we have to, right? It's not living paycheck to paycheck. It's just deciding to cut costs a little bit. One of the other, once you've done that cash wedge, though, what's another good way to potentially increase your chances of having a good monthly income? Well, a lot of clients that I've worked with over the decades, and this is whether they're retiring in Canada or moving somewhere else, look to what is termed in our industry monthly income funds. Now, they may or may not make sense for you or not. You talk with your professional financial planner, but really, these are funds that I've noticed high net worth individuals. And when I say high net worth, That bar is used to be like $1 million, and now it's slowly creeping up. And I mean $1 million in assets. These were millionaires back in the day. They wouldn't buy specifically mutual funds per se, but they would buy good quality dividend paying stocks. And again, I want to underline this is not advice. I have to always say this just for compliance. Please don't run out and start doing this on your own. Talk with your person. But they would, if they had $1 million, they could buy dividend paying stocks like the bank stocks, which if I'm going to assume you all know what dividends are. It's hard for me to gauge what the knowledge is here, but dividends have been bandied out in the jargon for quite a while. Dividends are not guaranteed, but for example, if you take a bank, any one of our big five banks, they've been paying dividends for over 100 years. They've never stopped. It's part of their reason people invest in them because the profits are good and they take their profits and they share it in terms of dividends. Normally, the dividend rate can be 3, 4, 5, even 6%, depending on the value of the stock. So you knew that if you put in $1 million in a bank stock and if the dividend rate was 4%, didn't matter if your $1 million went up or down with the value of the stock, like to 900,000 or 1.1 million, you knew you were getting $40,000 of dividends each year, paid quarterly, which is basically sustainable 40,000 for quite a while. Like, I mean, it's not a lot to pay, but you've got that million backing you up. You could always dip into it if you needed to. And what a lot of people would do before retirement, before they're getting ready, they might even buy these monthly income or these dividend paying stocks to have the dividends reinvest in them in the same stock to grow it more and more and more. Because every time you're buying more stock or more mutual fund units, that dividend the next time around is a bit higher too. Same concept with monthly income mutual funds, but a lot less risk. Well, I mean, I guess depends how you quantify risk or how you want to say what risk is because uh, stocks have been doing the stock bank stocks have been very well, but also at the same time you're holding one kind of investment. Whereas a monthly income fund, and I'll show you a bunch of them across the board, they invest in a basket of stocks. So if you don't have $1 million, if you have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, it's not easy to get enough different bank stocks to make it worth your while. But you can buy a mutual fund that will invest in not just bank stocks, but energy stocks that on purpose create dividends and push it out to you. And they'll push this money out to you on a monthly basis, not a quarterly, because they'll gather all the dividends coming in, all the investments, and every single month they'll push it out to you. Now, some of you might have come across these before, maybe you haven't. You might find that monthly income funds will promise a rate like 4%, 5%, 6%. I've seen 7%. And people will say, well, of course I want the 7% one. Why wouldn't I want the 7% one? Why would I pick the 4% one? The reason is because when they promise 7%, it doesn't mean that they promise that the dividend, sorry, will be 7%. These are monthly income funds for people that are looking for cash flow, for money to come in to pay their expenses, which is where you guys will be when you live in whatever part of the world it is. You're going to know in your head, I need $3,000 Canadian per month. I know, I just need that. And that's going to come partly from my Canada pension plan, minus the withholding, my old age security, minus my withholding, my RIF, my whatever it is, my rental income. That $3,000, 2,500 of it will come from those income sources. And when I sell my house, if that's the plan, and I put that 1 million into a bank account, what can I do with that to generate enough to cover that extra thousand of Canadian that I need? And you need to have that consistent. You can't have it going up or down. So if you have just enough money to like, if $1 million will give you that thousand, perfect. But if you have $500,000 and it's not a million and you still need that thousand, well, you're going to need that 7% monthly income fund because what they'll do is they'll pay you out the dividends that is accumulating, but they'll also pay you back a portion of your own money back to you every single month so that you know it's consistent, like a rental check. Every single month you get that 1,000, and that 1,000 made up of dividends, capital gains, interest, and your own money coming back to you. That makes sense? Okay, I'm going to start off with the RBC monthly income fund. Um, I used to work at RBC. It's one of the top funds in Canada. It's a very good fund. I'm not recommending it. I'm not recommending it. I'm just using it as an example. And a little bit later, if I have time, because it looks like the time's gotten away from me, I will show you how we compare these different things to see if it makes sense. So the RBC monthly income fund, you can find it online. Just type in RBC monthly income fund, make your way to Global Asset Management. I'll try to remember to put these links in the email that comes out this week after the session. And you can see here a lot of information about it. The way that I typically explain it to people is that the income fund will tell you a lot of good information on these things called fund facts. The fund facts tell you how much the unit values cost, how much let me just take you through an example. Let's say you had $100,000 to invest. Depending on the day that you bought it, you would buy it at a certain unit price. The mutual funds are sold in units. So on a specific day, let's say it was this date, which is October 31st, 2024, it was $17. If you bought it on that date, you take out your little nifty calculator and you'd say, well, you wouldn't have to do it. It would be done automatically, but I'm doing it for you. 100,000 divided by $17.60 would give you in your account, in your investment account, 5,681 units, well, 0.81 units. So let's just round it down, 5,681. So 5,681 is an important number. That's how many units you have that you bought at this price. Now, every day this price changes. So if tomorrow it's $17.50, the per unit value has gone down, and that's when you see your online 100,000 go down as well. But if the unit price goes up by 10 cents, that's when you see your online unit price go up. But in order to figure out what this gives you, what this fund says that every month we promise to give you 4 cents, almost 5, for every single unit that you own. So if you own 5,681.81 times 0.048 cents, that will give you $272 per month on every $100,000. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a consistent 272. Now your original units will go up or down, but that 272 comes in consistently January to December. Every year in January, this could change. But for 12 months, it doesn't change. And it's usually around, for this monthly income fund, it's around 3%. You'll find other monthly income funds out there that promise more than the 3%. Like I said, 4%, 5%, 6%. The higher the percentages, the more likely it's actually dipping into your units. It will sell parts of your units to compensate the amount that's coming out. I'm looking at the time and I realize I've actually spoken quite a lot and we're running out with 5 minutes left. Does anybody want to continue this discussion or move it to the next week? Because I'm happy to stay on another 5 or 10 minutes after the fact. Okay, what I'll do is I'm going to just keep on talking. And then when I finish this, I'll stop it. Whoever needs to drop off, please go ahead and drop off. I just want to finish this one topic so we don't roll into the next week. And if you have to drop off, you can always just look at the video afterwards and watch the last 10 or 15 minutes. All right. So one thing that can might put your mind at ease, for example, now is when they have a great tool here on RBC that shows you historically, because this fund has been around a long, long time. If I go back to the fund facts, 2000, well, long, long time. It's pretty good. It's over 20, it's 23 years, right? So that's consistent for a long time. On here, what you can do is actually show what would happen if, where is it? Go back. Let's find the RBC monthly income fund, Series F. I think I talked to you about Series F and A and all that stuff before. That might be another topic for another section. I can't remember what I talked about on the investments in the previous sessions. So put in 100,000. Let's say you say, okay, that's great, 272, but I actually need 400 a month. So, and that's happened to me a lot when I was working with people that were looking to retire. They had a specific amount they needed. They had a limited amount to invest. Let's see what happens, historically at least. So if we said we have 100,000 to invest, we're taking out 400 a month. Well, the good news is that historically, it shows that you're not running out of money if you keep it at 400. You can see that over the years, the rate of return was 6.66. At the end of the 20 years, it's gone from the initial investment because it still had reinvestments in it. The initial investment had grown to 445. We've taken out 207,000 in terms of total ending portfolio value, and you still have money at the end. But what about a 10-year period? It still looks good. So this line here is the light blue line is the amounts that with the withdrawals, and this blue line here is without the withdrawals. So this shows the power of the markets in having good quality investments and dividends, but there are these little sections here that can really cause havoc and stress, like Murphy's Law. And it happened to some of my clients. Murphy's Law. They sold everything, moved to Spain, invested their money, and then this wasn't them here. This was them here somewhere, right here. So if we change the date, I think I can change the date here. Let's say the worst case scenario when it was February the 10th, 2020. So let's go to 2020, February. You can see this huge dip, right? So we'll go to September 2020. Right? So they started off with 100, and all of a sudden they're down to 82,000, 84,000, 82,000 here. You might be happy you're getting that 400 a month, but you're getting your statement and you're going, oh my God, I put my money, I mean, 100 grand is 100 grand. But if you put in 500,000 or 750,000 or $1 million and it's down to 820,000, that can be a gut punch. That can quash your beautiful cafe and cappuccino desired stuff over in Europe, and you're not going to be happy. You might even decide to sell and take all your losses. That's a $200,000 loss, which is why the importance of that cash wedge strategy. If you put aside enough for that 1 year, that first year, or maybe even 2 years, whatever the comfort level is, and if it makes sense because the calculations show it can be done, that is a much better strategy. You don't have to worry about that 1 year, 2 year going up or down. And if the market does go down, I'm hoping most of us have been around to see that it does come back up again. And we're not investing in very aggressive kind of investments. Like if we're desperate to get a 20% return, I would say maybe we have to rethink what we're trying to do here because that is not a sustainable return. A sustainable return over a long period of time, even with aggressive investments, is more in the ranges of 5 to 6%, believe it or not, unless you put all your eggs in one basket like the S&P 500, which has historically shown around 10%, but that's over decades. All right. I'm going to stop it there right at 8:01. I still haven't shown everything I wanted to show. Maybe for the next master classes, which we're already taking registrations for February, I might make this a little bit longer, maybe an hour and a half, because it looks like we're always running out of time. I don't see that Sergey has joined us, so I'm going to have to call him out on that next time. Maybe he'll join us next week. If you have questions about properties, Malaga is his specialty, but Spain as well, he can get answers for. The bank account question, I will ask him that question because they've had to do it. Send them to me beforehand. I'll make sure that I ask him those questions, and we'll have them ready for you for next week, which will be the last session of the year. To find a rental property on Idealista, did you contact the agent while in Toronto, or when in Malaga? So, well, the way that we did it was we contacted two agents in Malaga when we were there. And we asked, I mean, we were fortunate enough to know people that lived there. So we asked around, do you know anybody? Just like we would do it here. Like if I were looking for an agent here, I might pick a sign off the street if they're always in my neighborhood. But I would also ask, friends or family if they've used somebody, and I would give them a call. And we did the exact same thing. We went out for coffee. We saw if we liked them, you know, how they treated us and things like that. And then we picked an agent, and we felt good with that person. And she arranged all the meetings. So in one day, we went to like 4 different apartments within walking distance of each other. And basically, she told us the good, the bad, the ugly of everything. Because some apartments, they don't look like they should be good, but it's just because they're not tidied up. But there's in the spectacular areas with walking distance to shops and, beaches and so on and so forth. So it's not any different. Um, I don't hope that answers your question. All right. Last thing, I will let you know again, if you're in the GTA at all, January the 28th, we are starting to promote our event, our in-person event, out to our other clients, out to the other universe. So you guys, whoever's here living in Toronto, part of this masterclass, please register if you're interested to come out. On hand will be Dimitrios from Trowbridge Professional Corporation. He has helped tens of my clients in planning their taxes when they're moving to Spain or abroad. He offers 15-minute free consults by phone when you're ready, but he will be there to answer specific questions face to face. You can get him in a corner between breaks and ask him specific questions. And of course, you'll have a presentation as well about what happens for withholding taxes and all that fun stuff on old age securities and CPPs, and whether you should have a TFSA or whether you should sell, when should you let the CRA know if you've left and things like that. Okay, so he'll be there. We're going to have Brian Cohen from Gowling. He is a lawyer at Gowling WLG, which are international lawyers. They work with people from individuals all the way to big multinational corporations on all their international needs. So he will be there to answer questions. And of course, I will be there and Yvette will be there. And we welcome you. There's going to be a nice spread. It's going to be catered with all sorts of food from Italy and Spain and all that stuff. And we welcome you there. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining. If anybody wants to ask any questions, I will stop.
Disclaimer. The information provided in this masterclass is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. While every effort has been made to ensure the information is accurate and up to date, it may not be applicable to your specific situation. Please note that we do not recommend or endorse any of the websites, companies, apps, or tools mentioned in this presentation. They were shown solely as examples for illustrative purposes. You are encouraged to conduct your own due diligence and research before using any services or making any decisions. Financial products such as monthly income funds, dividends, or other investment tools involve risks, and past performance does not guarantee future results. Always consult a qualified professional to tailor financial strategies to your personal circumstances. This masterclass is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or representative of any of the companies, organizations, or platforms discussed. Viewer discretion is advised for interpreting and applying the content to individual circumstances.